even if they're learning at the same time that you are, or you're learning at the same time as them, that's okay, taking that risk, and it's okay to fail. Kind of just have to put some faith and trust in the process.
How do you shift or turn the switch on and off between classes?
I think it's just a shift in the mindset.
Today, we're excited to have Tera Stutheit on the show. Tera has been teaching at Johnson Brock for 22 years, 27 years total, and wears many, many different hats at Johnson Brock. But her primary teaching duties are high school English, and she also leads the broadcasting and digital media programs there. She's also the school's play production advisor and former high school volleyball coach and 3-time state champion. Thank you, Tera, for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Tera's a future-ready educator, what I like to call a future-ready educator, always asking questions, always willing to learn something new and growing in whatever you do. So appreciate that. Awesome. Well, we'll dive right in, Tera. What are 3 of the most important things that you can kind of think of off the top of your head when you're starting a broadcasting and digital media program for teachers to know?
Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing that came to mind was just start and not be afraid to take that first step. While it might be just a teeny tiny baby step, just start. And I think it's good to know that something like this, where it's kind of a big step, like there's so much involved. But just knowing that your students are going to learn, even if they're learning at the same time that you are, or you're learning at the same time as them, that's okay. And just start. I guess that's the first thing. And then, when you do start, like, pick one small project or one small aspect of, what you want to do, and just kind of start with that small thing and then build from there. And then, I guess, like, just knowing that you can learn a lot from your students, and sometimes they already know things like, oh, I'm going to teach you how to, edit something in Photoshop, or I'm going to teach you how to put together this cool video. And you get to that lesson and they're like, oh yeah, and they just like have it done already, because they already have been doing it. So just kind of working together. And I try to, organize the class. It's more like a team. We call ourselves, we're a broadcasting team, and learning from each other all of the time, and not feeling like I have to lead everything, which is a little bit different than maybe teaching my English classes. So once you get into that mindset, I think it's a little scary, but just start, I guess.
Yeah. That's really, I'm glad you said that. How do you shift or turn the switch on and off between classes where you take more of a facilitator role in the digital media broadcasting class, as opposed to English, where you're up instructing and teaching in a different way? Is that hard for you? Was that hard for you? It's probably easier now.
Yeah, it's definitely easier now. I think it's just a shift in the mindset. My first, kind of incident, I don't know if it was 10 or 12-ish years. It was a Millennium Communications class that I was teaching. And that's just, even saying that out loud sounds kind of dumb. But I had a group of students, and the textbook that came with it was how to take a phone message. And it had like the little old phone message notepads, or like writing an email. Yeah, like stuff like that. And we just kind of went, okay, this is boring, everyone. And we talked a lot about, of course, the communication part. And so there was these 4 girls, and they just said, hey, can we just like do something else? Let's, we can maybe do like a news show, or, we kind of brainstormed ideas, and I had no idea. Okay, let's do it. So I think once you get that mindset, and you kind of just have to maybe put some faith and trust in the process, like, even if the result is like terrible and it's nothing that you could ever publish, or, like if it's just really bad, you're still learning, I think, from that process. And the kids are learning too, like taking that risk, and it's okay to to fail if that's what happens. Like just learn something for the next time.
Absolutely. And that's hard for a lot of
Yeah.
administrators and educators to wrap their head around, that
Yeah,
there's
it is.
the
Yeah.
grading part of it. It's the
Yeah.
process, it's the
Yeah.
journey that students are going on,
Yeah,
which
for
leads to
sure.
the next question. How does broadcasting, the act of creating content and doing broadcasting, help students improve their communication skills, which I know was something you're really passionate about?
Yeah. Of course, I have a language arts background, and so, um, yeah, there's just so many different parts of what you can do in broadcasting and digital media that are all just about communicating. And we do, our class is kind of we do a lot of like, we call them stories, but like video journalism is basically what it is. Some of them are just for fun. And then sometimes we do more elaborate, like feature type of stories or hype videos, all the things. But, the kids have to, they're going out and doing those interviews and doing like sideline interviews. And I know a lot of schools do that, where they have kind of interview the coaches maybe at halftime. And we've kind of dipped our toe into that. But again, sometimes I have, just this year I had one of our commentators who's really come a long ways, and she's doing really well. And I said, hey, she didn't commentate football, but I said, we need you to come. You're going to do the halftime interview with the coach. And it was a playoff game. And she kind of just went, I'm what? And I said, yeah, you're going to do it. And she just did it. And I said, it's fine. Like if it doesn't turn out, we don't have to use it, or, whatever. And so just kind of forcing kids into some situations that maybe they wouldn't think about ever having to do. And it can be as small as talking to their peers or asking, like we do run and gun kind of interviews too, like, hey, what'd you think of, the game, or what are you watching on Netflix, or just, simple things that it's all just a form of communication if you look at it, if you can look at it that way, I guess.
Yeah, you mentioned when we talked earlier a vlog project.
Oh yeah.
Take us through that.
Yeah. So at the beginning of class this year, we tend to get a mix, at least in my classes, where we have some kids that are really outgoing, and then we have some kids that are really introverted, and maybe they have like a friend group of 3 or 4, and that's just who they talk to, and they're perfectly fine doing that. So bringing some of those kids out of their shell. And so I just, one of the things they had to do early was, okay, you're going to do a vlog. And it was really simple. Tell us about yourself, your interest in broadcasting, your, maybe your background. And of course, they had questions. Well, who's going to watch this? Where are we going to, you're not going to post this. You're not going to put it up. And I just said, just, do it and we'll go from there. And it was kind of just in my mind, even for myself, like, I don't necessarily feel comfortable talking to my phone camera, whatever. And so I just said, record it on your phone, try to have that, we just, a pleasant tone, all the things about what you might want to sound like. And they did them. And then it was just kind of that, like I said, just kind of getting started. And then we watched them in class, and I made them watch just in front of their peers in their class. They were a little hesitant. And but I think it was just, it's okay. Like you just have to kind of start doing it. So I'm hoping to build a little bit more on that. I don't know for sure how, but doing something with it or doing more with it this semester.
I think it goes back to what you said, one of the most important things of doing a digital media broadcasting class is starting. So
Yeah.
getting them to start creating
Yeah.
content in that way, talking
Yeah.
about themselves, kind of forces them to think a little bit about how they're
Yeah,
going to
for
communicate.
sure. Mm-hmm.
One of the other things that you do a really good job is going outside the classroom. Do you want to share a little bit about how that helps students really enhance their communication skills, not only with their peers, but with people outside the classroom?
Yep. I have had students go to, just like for our feature stories or even like news stories, a town about, I don't know, 25 miles from us, Brownville. They have a youth theater, and we had some of our students participating in that. So we did a little, the kid took the equipment and drove himself to the theater one evening and did the story. We've done pieces, of course, in our town, like local businesses. Um, we did something on Indian Cave one year, Arbor Lodge in Nebraska City one year. So some of them are, yeah, just, and here I am like, sure, take this $1,000 camera and go do it. But I've never had anything bad happen. Knock on wood, I guess.
Knock
And
on wood.
yeah, even now, they use their phones a lot. That technology, of course, has come so far that we bought a little $30 mic that plugs into their phone, and so they'll take that equipment, and it's not maybe as of much of a risk. But so yeah, just outside the classroom has been, and I have some kids, like I said, one comes to my mind, super introverted. He was the kid that did the theater story, and I was kind of surprised that he took it on. I'm like, okay, and he had no idea. He was walking into strangers, I mean, but it all, it turned out great, and it's all just such, yeah, it comes back to just putting them in situations that they wouldn't normally be in, where they maybe learn that they can do that. They can talk to people, and they can put together a really nice story.
Yeah, you want to talk about how you have observed students transform through the act of creating content.
Yeah.
You've mentioned a
Yeah.
couple different students, but maybe a
Mhm.
little bit more specific of that transformation and
Yeah.
getting them to come out of their shell a little bit.
Yeah. It seems like every year we have, like I kind of said, a mix of people. This year I have a student who school hasn't been successful for him at all. And he was in elementary, he was in trouble all the time. And then he's a first year broadcasting member this year for me. And just kind of found his niche and was really enjoying taking photos, and came to one of the first volleyball games. He was running a camera at the time, and he's like cheering and really into the game, and just interacting with people around him, and kind of having a good time or whatever. And then all of a sudden he kind of just sits back and he says, why am I so invested? I don't even like volleyball. And it was just kind of a moment where I was like, okay, this is something this kid is going to find at school that he likes. And he's has his own Instagram account now where he posts some pictures, and he hopped on the bus with the girls volleyball team when they went to districts. It was like 2 hours away. He's like, yeah, I'll go take photos. And so things like that, where there's so much that's maybe different than the regular classroom, where some kids just don't do well. Where I think you can reach kids in a different way and help them have success where they might not in a normal, I guess, classroom or regular classroom setting. And it gives, like we've had some kids that are really focused on technology, or they're like big gamers, or they find interest in things besides just being an athlete. Like at a small school, you feel like that's what most of the kids are doing. But um, again, they're finding something that they can put value in, and that they just learn to enjoy, and where they're, I don't know, like they feel maybe part of, or I don't know, like part of a team, or like important to them, and still doing something that they love.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a message that we want to shout on the rooftops
Hmm.
to
Hmm. Yeah.
administrators and other educators who are maybe on the
Hmm.
fence or don't have a program like this.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
for
one
sure.
student, but that's what school is for, is to impact maybe
Yeah.
just one student in this
Yeah.
unique way. And it's a lot of effort for you to
Yeah.
help those a student like this too,
Yeah.
because of maybe some behavioral things that have happened
Yeah.
in the past that you're trying to transfer that
Yep.
energy and excitement
Yeah.
towards creating content. So
Yeah. Energy.
I
That's
love
good.
that story. Yeah, energy, lots of
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
How are broadcasting digital media skills that you're helping students with? How is it better preparing them for the future? In a digital workforce.
I think about the word transferable skills. In English 12, I teach a career unit. So we write cover letters and resumes, and we talk about some of those things that even like for their mock interview. So what are you doing now in school that will be something you'll do in a career or in college or something else? And it's not maybe like specific, like I can, do this type of coding, or I can do this type of welding, but it's those soft skills, and it's just things like, work ethic and responsibility and time management. And they don't always know that they're learning those skills, or maybe they don't want to admit that they're learning them. Um, so with my English background, one thing that comes up a lot is, why do we have to read Shakespeare? And I tell them it's not necessarily, yeah, you might not have to read Shakespeare ever again unless you're going to be an English major, but you're you're analyzing and you're using your critical thinking skills, and those are things you're going to use no matter where you go in life, or whatever career that, path that you choose. So I think kids have to have that resilience and the resourcefulness of figuring, like doing hard things so that they can do hard things. Like it's just, practicing those upper level skills, and whether it's Shakespeare or calculus or video editing, or figuring out like how to make the camera work and get the white balance setting, and whatever. So there's definitely thousands of things we could talk about with those skills that they learn in a class like a digital media or broadcasting, that they'll use later, in their life.
Absolutely. And then again, that's hard to assess those. It's not a number that they're receiving at the end of the year saying,
Yeah.
okay, you're at 98 in critical thinking skills,
Yeah.
and in perseverance you're at an 88.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we could develop something like that, but you've got to go through the process of that,
Yeah.
and it makes them
I,
stronger. And
I do think
yeah.
that's the hardest part for me, is the grading. And
Mhm.
I think Shanda Hall said something one time about she wished it could be more just pass fail. And I think we share a similar idea, and just it's the process, and it's the improvement. And so trying not to grade, it's hard. It's just project based. So figuring that out is really hard.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap up, I'd love for you to share how the training and resources and support from Striv Education has helped you improve as a broadcasting and digital media teacher.
Yeah. Oh gosh. So many changes from Strive in the last, even 2 and 3 years. The development of the future ready programs, that the curriculum has just been really good. I kind of joked in one of my comments that, man, where was this when I started? Because that would have made life a lot easier. So yeah, definitely very grateful for, for those things, as well as just there's a community of educators like myself, so I can reach out and just say, hey, has anyone had this problem? Or if I contact someone at Strive, they can put me in contact with someone else. And we've had a lot of just great, just, networking kind of things, whether it's at your workshop that you have in the fall, or, Jeremy from Sandy Creek came over one game when we had our boys teams played each other, and they just came with their Strive team, and he says, hey, we'll stream the game with all our cool fancy cameras. And I was like, please do. And our kids were just really excited, and they got to see kind of where our program could maybe go to. So that was a really cool just connection, like networking connection kind of thing. So yeah, I think it's good for kids, and I would be, I'm kind of sad. I mean, I would be sad, like, for us if we ever just went to straight like huddle kind of live streaming, because there's so much more to the course, and there's so much more to live streaming than just getting the game out there. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of educational opportunities with that, right?
yeah.
And some schools are choosing to invest in that, and some,
Hmm.
just don't see the vision for what
Hmm.
that could be.
Yeah.
And COVID really changed that, right?
Yeah.
With the way Huddle is capturing different events,
Yeah.
they've got a
100%.
technology that is
Hmm.
saving people a lot
Hmm.
of time with that. But
Hmm.
they also understand, that's why we formed a partnership with them, is they
Yeah.
understand the educational value and what broadcasting and digital media can do. And you've taken full advantage of that.
Yeah.
And we're super grateful for what you're doing and the time that you're investing, because we know it is a lot of time. It's a lot of outside the class time, which we definitely appreciate and acknowledge for that. So really appreciate you, Tera, and thanks for sharing your story.
Oh, thank you.